My name is Chris Calderon, Project Manager for Servion Systems, and in this video we'll be going over how to use modifiers in EdgeServe. We'll be looking at modifier groups, modifier items, and how we can link them all together to create a highly customized menu for your restaurant. Let's start with modifier groups. Modifier groups are groupings of modifier items that we can attach to an item or category. An example of this would be salad dressings or meat temperatures. Inside the modifier group, we then assign modifier items and prices and set the rules for making a selection. Let's take a look at the settings. First, we have name and readable name for guest. The name should be unique to prevent confusion. Readable name for guest is used for having a different name display online. Next, we have description. This will show up above the modifiers on online ordering. Prepend modifier name will make the name of the modifier show up on the ticket before the modifier. A common use for this would be a no modifier. Special type should be left as none, unless you're using this as a pizza topping modifier. If you choose pizza, it will give you a little pizza pie icon on the POS, so you can do half-price pie toppings. Be aware, it will cut the assigned modifier price in half. The next option is show no extra add sub side. This option will give you an additional price options for modifiers. By default, you only need to assign the base price for a modifier, but if you turn this flag on, you can add prices for substitutions, additions, side orders, etc. You will get a slider on the top of the modifier that you can slide over to no, add, etc. However, you must put prices in all fields or they will come up as $0. Now we come to quantity. How many options can be picked in this modifier? The minimum, maximum, and are any free? Setting the minimum quantity at anything other than 0 will make it a forced modifier, and it will always show up, even if you don't select the Always Show flag. Always Show will make the modifier show up, even if it's not forced. Same modifier item selectable multiple times does exactly what it sounds like. It lets you select the modifier item multiple times. Color sets the color of the modifier's group button. Priority is the order this modifier appears in relation to other modifiers. Visible rows and columns will override the default button layout. Now we get to subsystem visibility. This determines where this modifier shows up. Terminal is the iPad. Online, digital menu, and dine-in are all parts of the online ordering platform. PAX ordering is for taking orders on a handheld payment terminal. By default, the modifier will use the revenue group of the item. If you would like to override that, you can select a new revenue group under the revenue group override. Enable Show Always for job roles determines who can use this modifier. Choose the job roles you want to have access to it. And finally, we get to adding modifier items to the modifier group. To add items, hit the button on the right side plus Add Modifier. This will bring up a list of all the modifier items you have already created. Choose an item from the list to add it to the group. Now you will see the 6 price fields show up after the item. If you're not using Add No Extra Sub inside, then all you need to do is put a price in the first price field. If you are using the extra options, you will need to put a price in all fields, including the first price field, as any left blank will charge the customer $0. The last field is priority. This will order the modifier items in priority order, otherwise they will be alphabetized. The last box is the list of menu items this modifier group is assigned to. After you hit plus Add Item, you'll see a list of all items and categories. Here, you can select multiple items and groups at the same time. And don't forget to hit Save when you're done. Now, let's take a look at modifier items. Modifier items are the items we use to populate modifier groups. You can create them before or after the modifier group. And you can even link them back to another modifier group using sub-modifiers. You will see that they are very similar to regular menu items. Let's take a look at the settings. First, we have our 4 names. Name should be unique. This is the main name the system uses. Short name. If the name is really long, use a short name to fit in the button. Kitchen name. This is what will print to the kitchen. Online name. This is what displays for the online ordering platform. Next, we have descriptions for online orders. Flat rate /%. By default, the system uses a flat cash rate for its modifier prices. If you turn this flag off, it becomes a percentage. Something to be aware of here. This is the only place you can set a modifier to use percentage. Even if you don't put a price on the modifier item, if you go back to the modifier group and put a price, it will be in dollars, not percent. The next 6 fields are for prices. You only need to have something in the first field. The others can be left blank. You can set a color or image for the button. You can assign a SKU and cost. And you can even override the revenue group for this specific modifier item. This will supersede the override on the modifier group. Subsystem visibility can be set for individual modifier items if you have an option you don't want to show up online. Next, we can assign this modifier to a modifier group right from here. If you're looking at a modifier item you already created, you will see the groups that it's in right here. And you can make changes to the price. The next thing we can do is assign a sub-modifier group. This allows us to link another modifier group when selecting a modifier item. Just be careful. Do not link a modifier back to the modifier it came from, or you will create an infinite loop. Finally, we have assigned printers. By default, the modifier item will print to where the item is set to print. However, we can override this print assignment and direct it either the entire item or just this modifier to print to another printer. Now that we've created our modifier items and attached them to a group, and hooked those groups up to items, let's take a look at how we can manipulate those modifiers from the menu item itself. If we look at a menu item that has modifiers attached and scroll down to the bottom of the screen, you'll see the modifiers in the order they will appear on the POS. If you would like to tweak that order, you can override the priority from here. The only other option here that you will see is in the selection field. This gives us some control over how the modifier acts for this specific item. The default setting, normal, has the modifier item show up on the POS as normal. Is included will have the item be pre-selected, but it will not show up on the ticket unless you press the button, or if you press the button twice, it will say no before the modifier item. Auto select will have the modifier item be pre-selected and it will show up on the ticket as soon as the menu item is selected. None will prevent the modifier item from showing up on this menu item. Be aware, you cannot have isIncluded and auto-select modifiers in the same modifier group. They will all function as auto-select. Finally, some tips and tricks. You have a lot of flexibility in how you set up modifiers. Some people prefer to create all their modifier items first, and then link them all when creating the modifier group. Others like to create the modifier group first, and then link modifier items back to the group as they create them. Be aware of your modifiers when duplicating. If you duplicate a modifier item, it will also copy over its connections to modifier groups. The same thing will happen when duplicating items. The duplicate will inherit all the modifier group assignments. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please reach out to support. We're happy to help. Have a good day.